Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here today on such short notice. We know this town hall was called very quickly. We will explain why once we start the presentation, and we will provide you with a lot of detail on the issue to help you determine how you want to vote. Thank you for your understanding. We'll start this webinar as we start all our meetings and events. We'll go to the next slide, with our land acknowledgement and our equality statement. Thank you. Next slide to land acknowledgement, please. Go ahead, Alan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alan Wong. I'm the President and National Councillor for Manitoba. We acknowledge that we live, work, meet, and travel on the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples that have cared for this land, now called Canada, since time immemorial. These lands are either subject to First Nations self-government under modern treaty, unceded and unsurrendered territories, or traditional territories from which First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples have been displaced. We recognize that we are all treaty people and seek to work towards redressing the injustices from which settlers of this land have benefited. And I'm personally coming to you from Treaty 1 territory.
Thank you. We'll go to the next slide. And the equality statement.
Equality statement. Union solidarity is based on the principle that all union members are equal. Mutual respect, cooperation, and understanding are our goals. We embrace an open and an inclusive environment and encourage respectful behavior that affirms the dignity of all individuals. We neither condone nor tolerate behavior that undermines the dignity or self-esteem of any individual or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment. Discriminatory speech or conduct based on gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, race, disability, age, class, language, religion, ethnic origin, membership, region or work category, or family status hurts and divides us. Discrimination can take the form of harassment, defined as using real or perceived power to abuse, devalue, or humiliate. Discrimination and harassment weaken our solidarity, reducing our capacity to work together on shared concerns, such as decent wages, safe working conditions, and justice for all. ACTRA's constitution, bylaws, practices, and collective agreements reflect our commitment to equality and respect. Complaints of harassment and discrimination are taken seriously by ACTRA and should be directed to the president or their designate. All will be investigated, and those substantiated will result in action by the union. ACTRA activities are to be harassment-free zones where our members' dignity and equality are respected.
Great, thank you very much. I'd now like to introduce, we can stop sharing the screen for a second, please. And we will go around and we will introduce ourselves. I am Eleanor Noble, ACTRA National President, and sitting next to me is Marie Kelly, our National Executive Director and Chief Negotiator.
Hi, everyone.
And I will hand it over to Broadus.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Broadus Madison. I'm a National Councillor, UBCP ACTRA Treasurer, and that is me. Good afternoon.
Great, thank you, John.
Hi, I'm John Conskin. I am the president here in Ottawa, and I'm a national councillor as well, and I sit on the PRS board. I've been a member since 1978. Thank you.
Thank you. Dax?
Dax Belanger, UBCP ACTRA, National Councillor. I've been a member since 1996.
Thank you. Amy?
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Maticio, she, her. I'm ACTRA Toronto VP and National Councillor.
Thank you. George?
Hello, everyone. My name is George Alavisos. My pronouns are he, him. I am one of your ACTRA Toronto Vice Presidents. I'm also a National Council member, and I've been a member since 2019.
Awesome. Sean?
Thank you, Eleanor. My name is Sean McDonald. I'm the secretary on the UBCP ACTRA board and also a national councillor.
Thank you. Chris?
Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Cuthbertson, and I'm the president and the national councillor for ACTRA Maritimes.
Thank you. Tavia?
Hi, I'm Tavia Purr. I am an ACTRA Toronto councillor and national councillor, and I'm she, her.
Tanisha?
Hi, Tanisha Collins, she, her, ACTRA Montreal, national councillor. Thank you.
Thank you. Wendy?
Hi, Wendy Smallwood. I am the National Counselor for ACTRA Newfoundland and Labrador, and I am also on the PRS board.
Mercedes?
Hi, I'm Mercedes Morris. I am an ACTRA Toronto Vice President and a National Counselor. Thank you.
Amy? Oh, you're on mute, Amy.
Good, you can't hear my dog barking. I'm Amy Mantica, and I'm the National Counselor for Saskatchewan. Thank you.
Thank you. Dina?
Hi there, I'm Dina Pino. I'm with Toronto and National Counselor. I'm she, her. Thanks.
Thanks. Paul?
Hi, Paul Constable, ACTRA Toronto Treasurer, National Counselor, pronouns he, him.
Great. Keith?
Hi, I'm Keith Martin Gordy. I'm the Vice President of ACTRA National, the President of UBCP ACTRA, the Chair of the ACTRA National Constitution Committee, and I've been a member since 1983.
Great. Mariah?
Hi, everyone. I'm a Montreal counselor. I am also a national counselor alternate, and I am the national DEIB chair, and she, her. Hi, everyone.
Thank you. Teresa?
Hi, everybody. My name is Teresa Tova. I'm in Toronto. I am past president of ACTRA Toronto, and I'm your sitting national counselor and treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Hey all, I'm John Cleland, he, him, and I'm ACTRA Toronto VP and National Counselor.
Thank you. Gagan?
Thank you. My name is Gagandeep Singh. Pronouns are he, him. I'm an ACTRA Toronto counselor, and gosh, when did I join? It's not as long as some of my peers here, but I'm happy to be a relatively new member of ACTRA.
Great. Is there anybody that I didn't get? Just want to make sure we got everybody in. All right, great. Thank you. We are going to begin our presentation now, and I will share it with Teresa Tova and Keith Martin Gordy, your National Vice President and your National Treasurer. So you may have been surprised by yesterday's email inviting you to attend an ACTRA National Town Hall in just a little over 24 hours about a referendum you hadn't heard about and about a referendum that is concerning to your National Council. For clarity, this referendum vote was not created by ACTRA National Council. It was created by a small group of members who sent us a petition under Article 1103 of our Constitution. This article requires your National Council to send the matter to a vote within 30 days if you are unable to resolve it to the satisfaction of the petitioners. Some of you may be asking, how did this all come about? On April 29th, ACTRA received an email from a lawyer containing a petition demanding amendments to our Constitution and seeking to have the changes voted on. In this case, ACTRA National Council had to open the vote, according to our Constitution, within 30 days, which brought us to today, May 29th. As per our usual practice, we asked our legal counsel to assist us. Our lawyer reached out to the petitioner's lawyer to ask if we could meet to discuss their issues and hopefully find a common ground. The petitioner's lawyer advised that the petitioners did not want to meet, but rather wanted to proceed to have members vote on the changes they wanted, which quickly, once again, brings us to today. Next slide, please. The voting period will open right after this town hall at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard, 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time, and close June 20th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard and 9 a.m. Pacific Time. So the voting time period will be open for 3 weeks. Your National Council met several times to discuss the petition. It became clear that these amendments will create an additional financial burden on all the branches as well as ACTRA National. Therefore, your national council voted to recommend to the membership that you vote down the changes and vote no on the ballot. Is it unusual for your national council to recommend a no vote? For sure. Most often, referendum votes come from national council and are the product of national debate and consideration. The issues are fully researched, the data looked at, and we hope all consequences of the changes are considered and factored into the ultimate question that goes to the membership. Now, bear with us. We will walk you through everything. And at the end, we will have a question and answer period. At the bottom of your Zoom, you will find a button that says Q&A. You click on that and enter your question. When we get to the question and answer period, the Q&A, we will do our very best to get to everyone's question. Next slide. Here is the proposed amendment to the Constitution. Received from the lawyer verbatim. And I will read it out. Proposed amendment as provided by the petitioners. Proposed amendment to the ACTRA Constitution. Add a new section under Article 6, Authority of the ACTRA National Council, and make corresponding additions under Article 5, Branches and Administrative Centers, and to come into force immediately. New Section 606, Quarterly Financial Reporting to Members. A, ACTRA National shall prepare and provide to all members in good standing unaudited financial statements on a quarterly basis, including, but not limited to, a detailed statement of income and expenditures, a balance sheet, a schedule of accounts receivable and accounts payable, and a summary of major financial activity or financial position changes. These unaudited quarterly statements shall be distributed no later than 30 days after the end of each fiscal quarter and shall be made available through secure digital means, such as a members-only portal or official email distribution, and in print upon member request. B, each branch, local union of ACTRA and UBCP ACTRA shall similarly prepare and provide unaudited quarterly financial statements to its members in good standing, following the same standards and timelines as ACTRA National. C, nothing in this section shall amend, remove, or replace the requirement for annual audited financial statements at either the national or branch level. The provision of quarterly unaudited financial statements shall be in addition to, not in lieu of, any audited annual reporting obligations currently required under the Constitution or bylaws. The referendum question will be, do you vote yes or no on the proposed amendments to Article 6 of ACTRA's Constitution? The ACTRA National Council is recommending members vote no. Next slide. These proposed changes, if they happen, will have negative, unintended consequences. I will now hand things over to Keith to talk you through the next bit. Next slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Eleanor. So I'm going to talk about some of the work that ACTRA does and where we need resources to do this work. This is the important work of ACTRA. So we got 7 little things here on the slide, and they're all interconnected. So I'll just wend my way through it and talk about it. So I'll start with government lobbying. And this is something we do a lot. We've got 30,000 members And we punch above our weight in Ottawa because we have some celebrity. And federally is where ACTRA National lobbies. We need legislation to help us deal with things like tariffs and to deal with things like AI. We really need some legislation to help us with the AI situation, to protect our copyright, to protect our work, our image, our performance as recorded, for example. So we do that, and we lobby with the CRTC and so forth. Well, let me go to another one. Let's see. I've talked about tariffs. Let's talk about the lockout. We're almost 3 years into a lockout with the ICA. And this is a threat. I mean, I think the main thing we're dealing with is whether or not we have a collective agreement. And so we're fighting that out, and we're now in the Ontario Labour Board in mediation fighting that out, which we need to be. So this takes money, this takes lawyers, etc. So this is the work of your union. Inflation, I think that one ties into work opportunities, and that ties into negotiating and enforcing our collective agreements. It includes organizing so that we ensure more and more work is union work and not non-union work. We've recently renegotiated the IPA and the BCMPA, and we got substantial increases, and that's how we fight the inflation. Global alliances. This is FIA, it's the International Federation of Actors. It's, I think, about 90-some organizations globally from around 60 countries. And we meet on an ongoing basis in smaller groups or larger groups. It's where we have our greatest interplay with SAG-AFTRA, which is, the strongest performer union on the planet. It's where we addressed the lockout and where we addressed SAG-AFTRA performers coming into Canada and working in non-union productions. They've responded to that. I've talked about artificial intelligence and work opportunities, and I guess I'm just going to wrap it up. All this takes human energy and money and expertise. If we have something that compromises our ability to spend that money and that human energy to achieve things for our membership, that's not a good thing. Next slide. So, the proposed changes would shift time, energy, and away from our core focus, just what I talked about, which will mean less member support, less time to advocate, service reductions, slowdowns. It'll take longer for people to get back to you if you have an issue on set, for example, because it'll be a strain on our resources in the office. And I think the big one is weaker contracts and performer protections. Because if it's out there in the public, every nickel we're spending and how we are doing financially, you can bet that the producers are going to use that against us. So these changes are going to be expensive. We'll find out how expensive shortly. And we'll have to accommodate that additional expense, and it's going to compromise what we can do. Slide.
Hi, everyone. As Keith said, the proposed changes will cost us, will cost you. What you need to know is that ACTRA National processes the accounting, the books for, well, we do 10 sets of books across this country. We do not do Toronto's, we do not do BC's, but we do everyone else's, and I'm sitting with Anna Bucci here in the office. We do Alberta, Saskatchewan, Maritimes, Manitoba, Ottawa, Newfoundland, Montreal, and the proposed changes by this petition will significantly increase the workload. And I want to just make the point that the detailed reporting that's being requested, I understand wanting some more insight to finances, absolutely open to that. But what's being asked of in this petition is never done by an organization of our size or even bigger of any organization, because these unaudited reports, I mean, they just don't exist. We do not create them. That's a bit of a fallacy. I've been hearing people say they already exist. They do not. Things do exist, and I'll talk you through them. But these unaudited reports 4 times a year don't provide any useful information because they are only a snapshot of a day in the year of our fiscal health. Things can change within a minute. A big, huge bill comes in, something is paid, more income comes in. It is just a snapshot. And it's also very time consuming to prepare these schedules, because we will have to have, they have, in what's been requested, there's more detail, more minutia than we actually prepare with our auditors at the end of the year, which we are legally bound to do. And let me explain that to you. When we get ready to work with our auditors, which we do at the end of the year when we know all of our income and expenses, the auditors work with us for 5 weeks in order to produce the audited statements. Now, my assertion is that what's being asked by this petition is just as onerous and even more onerous than what we do with the auditors. Not only do they spend 5 weeks working with our financial staff, but we also spend 4 weeks of staff time getting ready to work with the auditors. It is a huge process, and I'm offering to you that what's being asked, all these balance sheets and accounts receivable and accounts payables, really, somehow the members want to look at how much we spend on printing fluid and safety clips and or whether on trips we ate McDonald's or in a restaurant. Like, I just don't understand it. So the additional work that would be required for this detailed reporting. I mean, it would just require a finance team to work for 9 to 12 weeks, 3 times a year. We don't have the resources to do this detailed accounting. And it's not necessary, because I believe, having done this position and worked with our incredible professional accounting staff, we are very transparent. We would need to hire 2 additional staff. They would be required to produce these reports at national alone, considering it's 10 sets of books. And in addition, upgrades to ACTRA's National Financial Reporting System, the IT, because right now that would be required, because upgrades would be needed, because this type of recording, this type of detailed reporting is not normal. It is not standard reporting practices according to accepted accounting standards. In fact, I need to share with you that our auditors, and I've worked with them now for, oh gosh, over 10 years, they continually comment about how transparent and how detailed our books are in the audited reports. They go, we work for no other company, no other union. We do books for many, many. They don't do this kind of detail. So, I just don't understand, again, why members would want to look at every receipt that would take weeks to produce. I trust our finance team, who are legally bound. And we do look at summaries and we do look at variances. And I just ask you, as I do, to trust our professional finance team to oversee and report to us, which they do 4 times a year. Thank you. Next slide, I guess. Thanks. Keith?
Yeah, looking for the unmute button. Thanks, Nova. You didn't mention it would cost us between 250,000 and 300,000 per year ongoing to have those additional
Sorry,
people.
we did an estimate of the amount of the staff time and the new programming in our operating systems, and it would be, yes, hundreds of thousands of dollars, 250 to 300,000 every single year, to be producing these kinds of detailed reports, which don't give you any comfort, because they are just snapshots of a day. Thank you.
Okay, it's on to me. I think you have the wrong slide up, but I may be wrong. That's the one. Thank you. So I'm just going to talk about your leadership, the folks you elect that you put your trust in to run your union the best way they can. We're volunteers, and our hearts are in it, I can tell you that. So your local branch will be elected by those folks in your local branch. And then each local branch, according to how many national councillors you're entitled to, decides on national councillors, sends them off to national council. The national council then elects the officers. So we have 3 officers: president, vice president, treasurer, and we alternate years in voting that. And upcoming is the election or re-election of our national president. Last year it was the treasurer and the vice president. Then we have the national executive, and I'll go into detail about what that is later. So when I introduced myself, I also mentioned that I was chair of the Constitution Committee. And this mirrors our national executive. We have a representation from every branch in the country, and we contemplate what might be necessary changes to the Constitution or the bylaws based on what we've heard from members, or what we've realized ourselves. We get legal help to make sure what we're doing is appropriate. We go through it, make sure it says what we want it to say, and that it doesn't inadvertently say something that we don't want these changes to say. This goes to National Council, and it gets considered again. And then that goes out to the membership in a referendum if necessary, or a bylaw change, which is something that council can do. And there's a difference between the national constitution and the national bylaws. And the difference is this: a constitution is a document that holds the basic principles of how we operate, what we think is important. And from the basic principles, we go to the bylaws to get more specific about how we enact those principles and what we do to do that. So I just wanted to say, as chair of the Constitution Committee, and I've been on that, I don't know how long, as chair, we have a process. We engage with the membership, and then we find our way to changes to make sure that practice is reflected in our Constitution and bylaws. I was very concerned that, with these proposals, changes to the Constitution that haven't gone through a process. I was also very concerned that we were unable to sit down and talk with the petitioners and say, what are you trying to do here? What do you really want? We need that kind of dialogue before we can try and draft or counter-propose to what they've put forward. We have to talk with each other, and that wasn't part of this process. So very concerned about that. I think that's all I've got to say. Next slide.
So I'm going to pick up on that and say, I really wish we had been able to talk to the petitioners as well, that they didn't, through their lawyers, say no, but 3 times. Because I think it was just education is needed, like a little look behind the finances. And I'm all for that. As your treasurer, I'm available at any time. But I know that it took me a long time to learn how to read a budget. And it's not just the numbers, it's the story behind, it's the narrative of what exactly are those resources going towards. And you need to know the work of the union to understand what the numbers mean. So let's talk about some of the terms that we've been discussing. And I'm just going to try and break it down for you. So audited statements. This is a financial statement that has been reviewed by qualified auditors, certified professional accountants, a big CPA firm that we use. And they work with us, as I said, 5 weeks to be able to produce these schedules. The verification ensures accuracy and reliability of financial information presented. They have all sorts of metrics, and that they go by accounting principles and standards which change all the time, and we have to abide by them, and so do they. So this should provide stakeholders, and really it is all of us, for the audited statements, with assurances that ACTRA's financial position is fairly represented. And I can just tell you something I had to learn. Fairly is the highest designation you can get in accounting terms. It's not unfair or false representation. It is fair. That's the best mark. That's a gold star. And we have constantly get that from our auditors. So unaudited statements on the other side, and I know the petitioners say, but they just unaudited. Well, but it's the same amount of work and more. These are internal documents prepared by staff that reflect the company's position at just a point in time. Unaudited statements are not verified. They're not by an independent third party. So you can't really rely on them. It's just well, here we are at this point today, but we got more expenses to come in. And it's not customary for any organization like us, any sister union, to release unaudited statements. In other words, unaudited statements are work in progress. They're not ready to be shared publicly as the audited statements are. But once the audited statements are ready at the end of our year, we actually know how much money we took in and how much money was spent, then that third-party audit is released and accessible to all members. Did you know that? It's on our website on actra.ca. Next slide, please, Mark. The financials are very, very easy to access. So for those of you who are interested, like these petitioners, please go to the website, actra.ca. You click where it says finances on the left there, and then you are in and you can study the reports, the audited statements from 2010 all the way to 2024 have been accessible every single year. And we can dig down into them. Call me if you have questions. The other thing I want to share, which I think is really important, is that National has managed its operations. We have kept expenditures as low as possible. Through our efforts from 2008 to 2022, where we had a very limited surplus policy, because of those efforts of National staff and the stewardship of our National Council and executive, meant that even though per caps come to fund national work, we were able to give $3.5 million back to the branches. We're not hoarding money. There's no hidden pockets of money anywhere. That money is released. And these savings were passed on to the branches. You know, our staff really, really is incredible. And I'm very, very grateful to have learned from them and to be able to work with them. Thank you, Anna. Next, Keith.
Oh, back at me. Thank you. So yeah, I just want to talk about our leadership. The national executive, and it's on the screen, the structure: president, past president, 2 national councillors from ACTRA Toronto, because the executive is comprised of an additional councillor to any branch that has more than 25% of the membership. So that would be Toronto, and 2 national councillors from UBCP ACTRA, which is the same situation. And then an additional a national councillor from every single branch: Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ottawa, Montreal, Maritimes, and Newfoundland, Labrador. And the national executive is also the finance committee. Meets 4 times a year. You know, we get updates on the finance. National executive, the National Council also goes through the finances twice a year, the budget, the variances, to be on top of all these things. We are the people that you have elected and entrusted to make sure that we're running a lean, mean machine, which we certainly are, and that we're doing right by you as members and making sure that everything's on the up and up. And as Tova's explained, we meet all of those things. I don't know if I have much more to say. Next slide.
Okay, for those of you who are visual, this might help. This is the budget approval process. The draft budget is reviewed by the officers with our leading directors and staff. Then the draft budget is reviewed by the national executive. And then the draft budget is reviewed by the full National Council. And I think we spent over 2.5 hours at the last meeting going through every line item and detailing, answering every question, and every concern that national councils had. We do that at executive as well. We spend as much time as we need. The final budget, now that budget was presented in February at our face-to-face meeting. And then the final budget is reviewed halfway through the year when we know where we are and what's come up and what's changed. But again, by the officers, then reviewed by the National Executive, and then I present it for the third time to the National Council, again for approval of National Council, and those budgets are then passed as a final budget. Next page, please. Thank you. And then at the end of the year, after the 4 weeks of prep and 5 weeks of working with our auditors, the audited statements. And it's fascinating because there are so much difference between our variance reports that Anna does up for us every quarter and the actual audited statements. They have mentioned that to us so many times that they are so precise. She is so, the materiality of, there's no disagreements, there's no discrepancies. They really are amazing and all their questions are answered. So those audited statements are reviewed by the audit committee, and that's the officers and senior staff again. And then the audited statements are presented to National Council for review and approval, and that way we can sign off the last year's financial health of the union. Next. I guess I just want to say that we take pride in our transparency, in our reporting, in our accountability, and that we exceed financial obligations of any organization of ours. We have bookkeeping that's done by our staff. We have variance reports. We have reporting. We have oversight. We take this very, very seriously. We engage in healthy conversations about priorities. And I believe you've elected your counselors from the branches to be at National, to be the stewards of the finances of the union. I'm not so sure what it would do to have everybody look at every single receipt. Thanks. Next.
Thanks, Tova. So I think it would be naive to think that an organization with 30,000 members, many of whom are producers, I think it would be naive to think that releasing everything quarterly with such high granularity to all 30,000 members, giving that access, I think it would be naive to think that it would not get back to the producers, to the ICA, the CMPA, the AMPTP. And those organizations with whom we negotiate are business people. This is business. They watch, they listen, they want to understand our strengths and our weaknesses. And if they find out we have weaknesses, they want to capitalize on that. It's going to make negotiations tougher. It'll be tougher to get, stronger protections. It's going to compromise us at the negotiating table if we follow through with these proposals that require such granularity. So that's why your National Council is recommending to vote no on this referendum. Next slide. So ACTRA's been around for 83 years, I think, a long time. We've been through a lot, but we've always come through, and our strength is solidarity. Our strength is in the membership. Our strength is in every one of these 287 people who showed up today to participate in this town hall. It's our collective strength that allows us to maintain collective agreements, allows us to negotiate from a position of strength. These proposed changes risk diverting that focus, compromising that strength. Let's keep our focus where it belongs. Let's do the good work we do when we talk to government, when we negotiate our contracts, when we make sure that ACTRA is what created ACTRA Fraternal Benefits Society and Members Benefit Trust in BC, to ensure you have healthcare, to make sure you have insurance, to make sure you have retirement money in your RRSPs. These things are all negotiated by this union. And we need to keep doing that work. And we need the resources to do it. If we have resources going to something that's really not necessary or useful, I think that's a bad move. I think that's all I'm going to say on it. That's pretty straightforward to me. Next slide.
So here we are. Your National Council looked at the petition, looked at the harm that it would do because we don't have the resources to provide this double bookkeeping that is legally not necessary, and that we have oversight and transparency through our, as we explained, our executive and our national council. We looked at the petition very, very seriously. And I understand, as I said before, that some members want a deeper look at finances, and I think that's great. And as treasurer, I promise you, I'm always here. I've been here for so many members across the country to call and answer your questions. Please take a look at the audited reports. If there you have questions, you want to hear the narratives about last year's spending, why we did what we did, where that money went, open book. We can absolutely talk to you about it. But I'm asking you to look at this petition and please try and prioritize the needs of members and the services that we provide to you, the lobbying, the government work, let's use those hundreds of thousands of dollars for unnecessary oversight to be used to actually build work opportunities so that you can work. Let's keep our costs at a minimum. Let's keep them down. Let's trust our financial staff. And let's stand shoulder to shoulder and use those, $250,000 to $300,000 a year to make sure we're working in the benefit of more work opportunities. So I ask you to really, really consider, does this help you as a performer in this country? Because I don't think it will, and it'll just take money away from things we can do for you. And so I really encourage you, we can talk about more transparency, we can talk about having meetings, but to change this is just oversight that's not needed, in my opinion. I ask you to please consider your welfare and the wealth, the health, financial health of this union. Thank you.
Next slide. Thanks, everybody. As you hear from the overwhelming message back and forth between Keith and Tova, we really want to keep our focus on what the members need. And we have qualified people doing the jobs, and we are doing the job in the correct way. And these proposed changes, as they are unprecedented, the National Council wants you to vote no in this referendum. So that is the completion of our presentation. We'll now go to some questions. We have lots of questions. We'll try to get to as many as we can. Okay, let me see. Why was there limited notice for the town hall? And we can stop sharing the screen. George? Do you want to answer this question?
Yes, sorry, I was just trying to find the stuff that I wanted to say. So give me 2 seconds as I sorry about that. So for me though, the reason why I wanted to, the reason why actually, do you mind coming back to me? I just want to think of some of my answers and I will come back to you. Thank you.
Sure. I mean, I'll answer a little bit of it, that, we were under a strict timeline in the Constitution for initiating the referendum. And as we said, the petition was received through petitioner's legal counsel, and the communications went through the lawyers, and efforts were made on 3 different occasions to meet and discuss, and that didn't happen. And so we worked as fast as we could to get all of the information that we could. And so here we are on the 30th day, as I had explained at the beginning of the presentation. Here we are on the 30th day, and per our constitution under 1103, which under petition, we had 30 days to go to a referendum vote if we were unable to resolve the issue with the petitioners. And as we said, we had reached out a few times and they had requested that this go to a referendum. And so according to our constitution, that's why we are here. And that was why it was so rushed. George, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sorry about that. I was my computer was not working properly. But yeah, so basically we were under strict timelines in the Constitution for initiating the referendum vote, as Eleanor said. The petition was received through the petitioner's legal counsel, and there was communications through our lawyers and their lawyers. We did try to meet with them, and they refused 3 times to meet with us in terms of the petition to see if we can find a compromise before going to the referendum vote. And legal counsel has to review the petition and provide advice. And so we worked as fast as we could to provide you with the necessary information and to get ready for the nationwide referendum vote, which is why this is happening so quickly. We have a very strict timeline within our own constitution, and we needed to make sure that we were legally going through all of the steps necessary to make sure that we were giving the membership the right information and what we think would be good for the membership. So thank you.
Right. Great. Thank you. And we're always open to when people have concerns or questions or something they're not sure of, or they want to learn more about how the union functions. We are here to help answer those questions. And for us, for those of us who are on a council, get onto national council, there's something in common that we love for people, for engagement from the membership. So asking questions and wanting to learn more about the union, we all view as really positive, because that means you're more engaged in what your union does for you. All right, I'll go to another question. How often are the financials shared with the members?
Take that one?
Yeah.
I want to take that one. Firstly, I do want to highlight that we're also members as national counselors. So everything that I'm going to say in terms of background really highlights that. So first of all, a detailed draft budget and then a final budget are approved by National Council, who, like I said, are also members. Additionally, financials are reported to the National Executive quarterly. As Tova mentioned before, the financials are professionally audited by a certified professional accounting firm. And once that audit is complete, they're presented to National Executive and then National Council. And then the audited financial statements are shared on the ACTRA website. Now, you can view all audited financial statements going all the way back to 2010 on our website at actra.ca/financials. It's really easy. One thing I want to highlight is it's not customary for any company or labor union, not just in the arts, but across any sector, to release unaudited statements. However, ACTRA's verified audited financial statements are available publicly. And I do invite you, if you're interested in learning more about the union's financials, to view some, to go to the website. Like I said, you can go back the last 14 years, and you'll see that they're vastly different than, let's say, getting a report of your RRSP statement, which you may get by your email. It's a lot more involved in these statements. And so just to answer that again, like, it's not just a simple answer, because it's shared quarterly with the National Executive, it's shared twice a year with the National Council, and then the audited are shared with the members. So I guess if you add that up, it's 7, but breaking it up, it's several instances.
Yeah, thank you, Tanisha. And another good way is to attend your AGM, because usually at your local branch AGM, they will run through the budgets. All right, I'll go to another question. Who brought the petition forward? Broadus, go ahead. You're on mute. We're almost there. We're almost there. There we go.
All righty. Good afternoon. Who brought the petition forward? It's a question. And this has been covered a couple times before, but I'm going to try to provide a straight TikTok of the events. Petition came to the National Executive through legal counsel for the petitioners. That happened on April 29th, 2025. We didn't actually know who organized it. That wasn't clear. Their names weren't included on the petition, but we did observe that it had about approximately 300 signatures. Now, when, according to our Constitution, specifically Section 1103, that section provides guidance on what the National Executive or National Council should do when we receive a petition. And I'll go ahead and read that section to you. If the Act or Council, upon receipt, if the Act or Council Executive cannot resolve the question to the satisfaction of the petitioners, and if the question is not ruled to be unconstitutional, the referendum shall be instituted within 30 days of receipt, either locally, regionally, or nationally, according to its application. So we received the petition. We followed Section 1103 and reached out to the lawyer via our lawyer, union lawyer, asking for an opportunity to meet with the petitioners to seek a resolution. We offered this meeting 3 separate times, but each time we were told through their lawyer that they weren't interested in sitting down with us. Now, out of the abundance of caution and being mindful of our duty to being as transparent as possible and making sure that all voices are heard, we reached out directly to some of the members who signed the petition. And what we found was kind of surprising. Some of the members, first of all, weren't aware that we were trying to get in touch for a dialogue. And more than a few didn't realize that we already have independently audited financial statements available to the members. Now, the Constitution is unequivocal. If we can't work things out within 30 days, it has to go to a referendum. And that's where we are now. Voting on this voting period will start at 4:30 Pacific time, 7:30 Eastern time, right after this meeting. Now, I want to take a moment to state something that's been in my mind and heart recently about this. I just want to state clearly that every member has a right to raise concerns and seek redress for grievances. And when there's a chance to present your case, to seek redress, to speak in the halls of power, well, that's a right too, and it's a big one, right? People have fought hard for these rights, right? The fact that we still have them today and can actually use those rights is something we shouldn't take for granted. And that's just something I wanted to kind of get off my chest. And I hope that you guys understand a little bit about what led us here today.
Great. Thank you. John, did you want to add something? Saw your hand up.
Yeah. I thank you, brothers. I think it should be noted that of the membership, this petition represents 0.01% of the membership. I just asked my calculator. So it's not a majority of people who asked for this. And I think the majority of people should turn it down. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Here's another question. Doesn't ACTRA already have a finance department or departments, and can't they do the additional work? Alan, you want to take that?
Sure. We do have a financial department, obviously, but like Tova said, we don't have the resources for extra staff. I mean, they're already worked really hard, actually. And they already work very long hours. And the additional work required by this amendment is significant and is estimated, like Teresa said, to require at least 2 minimum extra staff. So if the changes were approved, then staffing resources from other member services would need to be reassigned to the finance department, or new money would be need to found to hire into these new positions. And I'm sure that most people here are probably aware that we just had a referendum to propose a dues increase, a much needed dues increase, and it was voted down. So essentially, I want to compare it to something like you're at a job and you ask, you're doing a good job and you're doing like a lot of work and you think you deserve a raise. And so you ask for that raise, but then your boss says, no, you can't have a raise and here's more work to do. That's kind of how I feel about this. Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you. How will this affect my branch? Tavia, you want to do it?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Thanks, Eleanor. So how's this going to affect your branch? Well, it's basically going to take away the work that our staff should be doing. Like at ACTRA Toronto, we don't have the resources to hire another staff member. We probably won't hire another staff member. But what that means is the staff that we do have that should be going after producers, that should be collecting late payments, that should be making sure we get our PRS checks, that should be organizing like fun networking events for members, that should be going towards us as members to protect us and to make sure that we are having a great time with our union. That money is going to be spent, and that time, because it's not just money, it's also time, that time is going to be spent making sure these financial documents are constantly being prepared. And that's basically what the staff is going to be focusing on. It's going to be focusing on making sure that unaudited statements are out. And that's not just national. The petition's also asking for every branch to release these statements. And, at ACTRA Toronto, we're large, we have a lot of staff. It's gonna make things definitely difficult, but there's a lot of branches that don't have the staff that we do. And for them to have financial statements, that's going to come out of national, which is going to come out of other branches. And we're just not going to spend the money that we should be spending on going after the producers and making sure that we are getting paid and that our rights are protected from the real enemy, which is the producers, not the union. So that's just what I want to say on that. It's going to affect the branches so much more than it should. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Keith. You wanted to add something there?
Well, yeah, as president of UBCP ACTRA, I just want to say that we're going to have a town hall this coming Monday, June 2nd, at 6 p.m. And we're going to answer the question what it's going to cost our branch then. Our our manager of finance is crunching the numbers right now. So we'll be able to answer that and anything else that will affect our branch directly regarding this on Monday.
Great, thanks, George. Very quickly, and then because we got tons of questions to get to.
Yeah, very quickly. I just want to say, I joined the union in 2019, expecting, I wanted the union to be here to help support me and to help build my career and all of that. And with this and all of the other things that we've gone through with COVID and stuff, if this goes through and it ultimately affects the work that I do as an emerging performer, trying to make a career where I don't have the leverage that other performers have in this industry, and then to have our union potentially be affected by that negatively in a financial way, is really disconcerting for new members like myself who don't have the leverage yet to build a career. And it's very scary for me as a young performer. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, here's another question. If the petition is shut down and a no vote is achieved, is there a plan forward to satisfy the needs of the petitioners without such a burden to resources? Tova?
That's been in my mind, and that's why we wanted to talk to the petitioners. And unfortunately, we were to say, what could we show you that we show our elected leaders that would help those who are interested? I'd be so interested in problem solving and seeing, let's have a lunch and learn with the treasurer. Let's look at a breakdown. Let's talk through the minutes to what you're looking at on the audited statements. Let's have you understand the narrative of what we're doing. We'd be absolutely willing to do that. So yes, I would love that opportunity, but I don't think this is the answer. Thanks.
Right. And we've also spoken that, if members feel that there isn't enough communication, that's another place. Like, we want to make sure that there's even more communication, and we're always constantly working on that. Today is fast moving, fast paced with TikTok and social media, different avenues in social media. And I hope that people are seeing the efforts that are being made on behalf of the branches and ACTRA National of getting messages out as fast as we can, and way more of them. Amy?
Hi, yeah. Um, I think this came out of the dues referendum. I think we can all look at draw a straight line between the conversations we were having at our branches and nationally around fiscal responsibility, around losing resources, around staff, around deficits at multiple branches and national. I think we were having these big conversations, and I think we need to continue to have them. So the education, I'm sure people have already taken away tonight in the chat. I can see questions around audited statements. I myself look at the audited statements and I have more questions. So if I think of myself as a member, which I am, and I look at something, I probably have a lot of the same questions that you have. If you are a petitioner on this call, or maybe I sit at the table with you nationally, we can always dig deeper, and we can always figure out the nuance that is missing, because I'm not going to have the same questions as someone else on this call, right? And so we need to figure out ways and forums to have these very transparent, big conversations that go after the harder questions that people are obviously looking for. And I think that's fair. I think when you pay dues, you have hard questions that you want answered. And I can see that in this petition. I can see it in the questions in the chat. And so, what Tova just said about having more forums to have that. Paul is working at our own branch in Toronto on a series of treasurer talks where he can sort of do this work looking at our own budget. But I think we can expand that across the country and do more. Just want to offer that. Thanks.
Thank you. Another question. Does council have an understanding of the root cause of underlying issues or grievance of the petitioners requesting this change? Does council have an understanding of the root cause? As we've said throughout the presentation and in some of the previous questions, we reached out to the lawyer of the petitioners requesting to have discussion and conversation to find out what the root cause is. And again, we were told they wanted it to go to a referendum. So unfortunately, we don't know the root cause. We can speculate, but we did not actually have that conversation. But we're always open to it at any time. Sean?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I agree with what you just said, Eleanor, but I also just wanted to reflect back on what Amy shared. And I do believe that what happened with the dues referendum triggered a lot of questions for the membership. And a lot of those questions were answered, or at least there was a strong attempt on the part of both ACTRA National and I can speak for our branch at UBCP ACTRA. We held special membership meeting in order to address them. We had a town hall as well to talk about the dues referendum. And there was a lot of suspicion and a lot of I think the fact that we were asking for more money from the membership put a focus right on our financials, and people were like, well, if I think there was a false equivalency made between if you were doing a good job with your financials, you wouldn't need more money from us, despite the fact that there hadn't been a dues increase in 18 years. So I think this is, I mean, we can only guess because we haven't had the opportunity to talk to people, but there does seem to be a similar line between, as Amy pointed out, between those two events. And I think this is a consequence of some of the reaction that we experienced during the dues referendum.
Okay, thank you. Have the petitioners been notified and invited to speak at the town hall? Well, they would have been notified of the town hall in the same way that we were all notified of the town hall, because all the entire membership got an invitation, and also after the lawyer representing the petitioners said that they didn't want to meet, it would have been inappropriate for us to go around and directly engage the petitioners to discuss the matter. So because we were going lawyer to lawyer. All right. I have another question. So if no unaudited financial quarterly reports exist, how do you gauge throughout the year where the financial health of the union is before the year ends?
Oh my gosh.
So
Variance reports are done quarterly, friends.
hold on, I'll just help me understand why the membership knowing where their money is going is a bad thing. Is there no workaround?
Well, the elected leadership is the stewards of the finances, and we look at the finances quarterly, and we look at variance reports. They're a very specific item directly related to the budget, not detailed receipts and receivables and payables, which is being asked for, and not the other very structured schedules that are the same as you get in an audited report. But we do look at what the budget was, what we approved, what we have spent year to date, how much is left in that line item, the budget, what the variance is, and then we do comparables to 2 years before. So we see the trend. Oh, are we spending more and we ask those questions. Are we spending more in legals this year? Why is that? Why are different incomes down? Why is printing so much? Why is this? And we ask those questions, and that's how we get a good look at where we are sitting. We planned on doing lobbying event up in Ottawa, but why have we not spent that money yet? Because instead we did this other thing that came up that we needed to do, and we talk about it, we make decisions about it, and we follow the money through the story of the work of the union month to month. So yes, those exist, but they are not the prescriptive schedules that are being asked for in this petition. Variance reports do exist. We absolutely look at them.
Exactly. The petition or motion shall clearly state the question to be put to the membership, along with the specific grounds for seeking the referendum. What grounds were articulated in the petition? All right, so this amendment seeks to improve transparency and member oversight by providing regular, timely financial updates throughout the year. And quarterly unaudited financial statements will allow members to be able to be better informed about the financial health and decision-making of both ACTRA National and its branches, and while preserving the existing requirement for full annual audited financial statements. This is a standard practice in member-driven and democratic organizations. And it supports ACTRA's commitment to openness and accountability. That was the statement of the petitioners. Okay. Get to another question. Bear with me, there's a lot of questions here. Sorry, just. Why did you allow 18 years to pass before a dues increase? So I'm sure there's lots of people who could answer that. This particular town hall is about this petition, but for sure we can answer that. So there was quite a while during those 18 years that there was discussion. I wasn't on Actra National at that time, but there was discussion that was had about, when do we do an increase, and, should we do an increase often? And these discussions happened when the union didn't really need a dues increase. And then when it sort of came time that it was looking like a dues increase was going to be needed, as time goes on, things are a little bit more costly. The discussion was in the commencement. I think it was around 2017. It was close to when I came on, and there was a lot of discussion about how we were going to go about it, and what was the formula, and what was how much do we want to do. And then things happened like a pandemic, which then suddenly put a full stop to that conversation. Because it wasn't appropriate to do it at that time. And then we were followed up by a lockout, and then we were followed up by strikes, and then we were followed up by one thing after another. And then we got to a point where now the union really needed it. The branches, the entire union really needed it now. And, all these years had passed where we did not feel comfortable in the financial situation and the burdens of what the world was giving to us to ask during that time. But at a certain point, we did need to ask. And so that was why the referendum, when you ask, why did it take 18 years? That was why it was. And we were hoping to get an increase in this year. Keith?
Yeah, why did it take 18 years? Good question. There is never a good time to go to your membership and ask for a dues increase. As performers, life's tough enough already, but we got to pay our dues, and that's how we fund the work that the union does. But there's never a good time. Who wants to, everybody jumping, can I pay more dues? But some people actually do, but for the majority of us, no. That's why it took 18 years. But we realized that in that 18 years, the cost of living had gone up 41%. And so the cost of running the union had gone up at least 41%. And all the other things you mentioned, COVID, strikes, lockouts. And then we had a couple of big wins with our two largest contracts. We had some really big wins. We did a great negotiating. And we thought, okay, this makes it really clear to the membership that the union is working for them and we're doing a great job. This is, if there's ever a time to ask for an increase, this is now.
Great, thank you. I'm sure if this, I'm not sure if this came up because of the expenses for sending people to FIA. I'm unsure if this came up because here's another question. Sorry. The question is, I am unsure if this came up because of the expenses of sending people to FIA this year, last year, but if it did, would there be anything that could be said to alleviate possible concerns about spending that money? Does anybody want to address that? Go ahead, Tova.
First time I was invited to a FIA Congress was by Fern Downey years ago to meet all the leaders of the film and television and theater unions from across the world and hear our mutual concerns, to build a relationship with FIA, with everyone from around the world, to build a relationship with SAG-AFTRA, to be able to meet them face to face and deal with our mutual concerns, became really, really important. I want you to understand that BC was sending their leadership on their own dime for years before we considered that we needed to send not just our president and our executive director, but also the officers. So it was a little bit of a bigger contingent in London. An extra 2 people were sent, and that included myself. And I was so proud that other industry partners here that were there asked us to stand up and speak to issues that we were fighting for and working for and building a collaboration. I did not go. We did not go because of concerns of money to the next one in, where was that? Turkey, Morocco, I can't remember, but didn't go. And then last year we did go to New Zealand. And I want you to understand, if we were in New York or New Zealand, the only difference in costs would have been a little bit extra in fares. Still hotels, still, food, still no per diems. We do it, all on just, we're not paid to go. But we were able to, as Keith said, do that incredible work. And yes, it looked like a big number because we thought the expenses were going to be really, really high. And we came in so much under budget. And that is one of the minutiae that was asked for at our last National Council meeting, and we showed it. And if I remember correctly, we came in 40% lower, I'm trying to remember, than our budgeted, because we found very, very cheap flights. We stayed in very, very economical hotels. We did a lot of walking instead of, different branches, Montreal, BC, et cetera. They send people on their own, because they know it's worth it to help bring work around and build relationships so that we can fight all these issues for performers globally. It has, to me, the return on investment to be able to bring SAG-AFTRA back into the fold to work with us on the lockout and to communicate. That happened in FIA when we were able to make that case in front of the world, and when we were supported by at least 10 other countries. So it was a very little amount of money compared to the budget when it came into it. It was, Anna's just giving me a number right here beside me. I was guesstimating. Sorry? $50,000 lower than budget because of how economical we were in our travel plans. And so, yeah, incredible. That's what I think.
And I'm going to add to that, because I know we do get a lot of questions about FIA. I will, congratulate Fern Downey, your past national president, and Stephen Waddell, who really laid the groundwork on putting ACTRA on the map globally. And our work there since Fern moved on from that, we've continued that work and advocating and being a big loud noise. So one of the things is there's actors unions around the world that do not have the protections that we have. And they are inspired by what they hear, and they learn from what they hear from what we bring to the table there. At the same time, we were able to make headways on in commercials, because we were able to have a face-off with, all credit going to Tova, who raised her hand almost immediately out of the gate to call SAG-AFTRA on the fact that this was hurting our members, having them come up to Canada and doing commercials non-union like that, and taking work away from our members during a lockout. And, at the beginning, because, SAG-AFTRA was a little bit on the spot, they were trying to hum and haw through it, but there was a lot of pressure in the room, because around the world, SAG-AFTRA works around the world. And so the rest of the unions sort of put on a pressure on SAG-AFTRA. And then we were able to have, a letter between us, a letter with them that they shared with their members. And it made a lot of improvements, and it helped us get back a big commercial agency. The other thing that we have done through FIA, which is exceptionally important, is we have made a lot of ties there. And one of the big ties that we've made with the other unions is that they came to support us during our last IPA negotiations. So we had FIA present at our last negotiations. We had Equity UK, who are beyond inspired by what we have done during this lockout, and it has gotten them inspired to re-engage in trying to get their commercial jurisdiction back in the UK that they lost a decade ago. They were there every day with us, standing in solidarity and support and letting the CMPA know that they were watching every move. We had SAG-AFTRA there for most of it. We had IATSE, we had the Writers Guild, we had the Directors Guild. This was a turnout that was unprecedented, that came and stood by us, supporting us during our negotiations. We've never done that before. And a lot of that work was done through FIA. And oddly enough, and even though I'm in Montreal, some of our great conversations and ties with UDA happens in that occasion. And we have bonded together more than ever before. And these are the times, because we are all faced with the existential threat of artificial intelligence. And, you know, now we don't know what Trump is doing from day to day, though it seems to be some good news yesterday, but they're going to, you know, dispute that. But tariff threat on our industry and et cetera, et cetera. So FIA is really of vital importance in the work that we do. George, and then Alan, and then we'll go to another question.
No, you basically said everything. I wanted to point out that, like, even as a member, I've seen the work that goes into FIA as somebody who notices that we need international relations with all the acting unions across the world, especially with the way that our industry is so globally connected in so many ways. And you know, especially with all the threats that our industry is being taken head on in terms of AI, tariffs, this, that, every union within the world probably has very similar issues that they are facing. And it's better to have these conversations and to build these relationships with all of our unions so that at least we have an idea of what goes on in an international scale. I think it would behoove us to not have ACTRA be a part of that when every other union who's an acting union is a part of this. I think we need international relations within this industry. Thank you.
When you think that some countries don't have protections of best practices around nudity or, you know, working hours, and we get to share our stories there, and they are empowered to try to get you know, you can hear about around the world some of the terrible working conditions that they have, and we help each other. It is really an incredible federation. Alan?
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say as well, you know, we've heard a lot about we've heard a lot of people question FIA. We've definitely, you know, raised that question at the National Council ourselves, like asking where can we cut down, because we've had deficits for a couple of years now, right? Especially with the ICA lockout, just overall revenue has gone down, just at the branch level and at national level. And so, you know, but you know, if you think about, you know, we question sort of the FIA trips, or even like other trips that national leadership take to the Canadian Labour Congress or to Ottawa for lobbying, or even our own national council meetings where we meet twice a year. This is the work. This is the work. This is where the work gets done, and it's this way that we're staying relevant. If you break down those expenses in the audited statements that are posted on the website, in each branch's website, you'll see that for ACTRA National and for the branches that are experiencing a deficit, even if you remove those expenses, we're still in a deficit. So it doesn't make a huge difference. Where the issue is with revenue is just inflation, cost of staff, cost of expenses in general have just gone up, and our revenue has not. And so that is really the issue. And so what we need to do now, we're already going to be in sort of a time of austerity. Things are going to get cut. And so we have to figure that part out. We have to figure out how we can continue to move forward without giving up too much quality of service and quality of what the core function of ACTRA is, and be able to maintain it until we can figure out a way to increase the revenue in a way that's agreeable for everybody, right?
Great, thank you. Another question, how much is the cost of hosting this referendum, i.e. the legal fees, hosting, voting, etc.? Tova, you want to take that question?
I know that the actual referendum itself, just the third party, what do they call it?
Election buddy.
Somebody that does it for us. I think it's around $10,000, $15,000, 10,000 plus, somewhere in there. But it's the intended costs that we've already talked about of ongoing costs of 250 to 300,000 a year, should this be implemented, that we're really very concerned about. Thank you.
Right, and perhaps maybe the intention, I don't know, because we were unable to have a conversation, is somehow to help the union save money, but it's actually going to cost the union not just the cost of the referendum, but, you know, also to implement that, as we've spoken about.
Legal bills come in yet for our legal counsel on what we've done in the last 30 days.
Yeah.
But to hire legals, yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Eleanor?
Yes.
May I jump in? Because I'm taking a look at some of these questions too, and actually a couple things. First of all, I want to say thank you for everyone who's attending tonight and taking the time to actually engage with this conversation, because there's a lot of feelings in. I'm looking at the Q&A, and we have wrestled with this, and we have proceeded in the most earnest way possible, because we're all just trying to work and ply our trade. So a couple things. I've been the treasurer in Toronto, and during my time in service of serving my table, I made sure that I could go from as sophisticated as necessary all the way down to very plain spoken English every single month, talking about where we are with money. Now, I'm from the Toronto branch, and we had the staff support in order to talk about those numbers on a regular basis. That is not the case for most of the other branches, right? And we are 9 autonomous branches, and we have the benefit of this coordinating national body. And because of that design, you know, Toronto is kind of an economic engine for us, but we also need to really keep a close eye on what's going on with the financials. And the reason I mention that to you is because members would come to observe our meetings. Members can come to any council meeting, and it would be a matter of pride that they could come. And what I appreciated is a member in good standing could come and observe that meeting. They would also be provided whatever numbers we were reviewing at that day. Now, it's an in-camera meeting. Those numbers cannot leave. But right there was access to that sort of explanation and addressing the questions until everyone was satisfied. And we were able to do that on a monthly basis. Now, that was an effort that we particularly undertook. In this case, by having access to a report that's just a snapshot in time, and there's been some question about, can you get a concrete example? Well, if my books are open and I'm trying to, you know, or I'm holding my cards up and someone can see the cards that I'm holding, it puts me in a disadvantage to negotiate with them, to try to win the hand, so to speak. If producers were aware of what we had in our just let me complete this point, Broadus. I don't I see you there too. If producers knew, let's say, what's in our strike fund, if producers knew where we were getting, how our money had been apportioned, and saw a vulnerability, that is something that they could rely upon to create pressure within the union, create a pressure point, right? Or something in order to get us to negotiate something away. We have already been very successful in our negotiations because we've been able to maintain a great deal of informational integrity. So I'm appealing to you to be aware of, like, just member to member, understand that we are looking at these things really diligently, and we welcome you engaging with our process. And that is why it's like really great to see everybody here, and having access to it, participating through your through your branch is going to give you that information. The last thing I'll say is 18 years is a long time. But what that meant was we've increasingly been underfunded. You've heard that inflation's gone up over 40%, right? That would mean year over year, that money that is being collected is worth less. So to be chronically underfunded for the very necessary work to protect our members, it has been underfunded, and yet it has still been accomplished. And at this point, we asked for the money that we would need in order to really continue to fight, to organize, to secure more work, and to continue to bargain effectively and defend you. And that's one thing that why the request had been there. And I do think it's something that we will have to talk about in the future, but we really do want to protect this union. And I'm speaking simply to you as someone who wants you to understand, but know that you already have a way to it. And this would weaken, this would create too much vulnerability, too much access for information that really you should have, but also can put it in the hands of folks who could use it against us.
Thank you. Broadus, I've got another question, but do you want to add to that?
No, I don't. I actually just wanted to say, could we get back to these very interesting questions?
Yeah. Is there a part of a constitution? Hold on one second. I'm just trying to. Is there a part of the Constitution where if a member brings forward a petition or amendment, efforts need to be made to resolve the issue before moving to a referendum? So is there a part of the Constitution where if a member brings forward a petition or an amendment, efforts need to be made to resolve the issue before moving to a referendum? Yes, so we've addressed that quite a few times. Yeah, go ahead. Broadus, did you want to, or Keith?
I can.
Sure, I'll take it since I'm chair of the Constitution Committee. 1103 is pretty clear, and I think it needs work. But what it says, when you get a petition, the petition or motion shall clearly state the question to be put to the membership along with the specific grounds for seeking the referendum. If the Actor Council Executive cannot resolve the question to the satisfaction of the petitioners, and if the question is not ruled to be unconstitutional, the referendum shall be instituted within 30 days. So that's in our Constitution, and in a sense, it's problematic. It means that later on, in less than an hour, I guess, this referendum is going out without all the necessary second thoughts and legal consultation to ensure that the referendum we're sending out makes sense, doesn't make things worse, doesn't break the law, and doesn't conflict with other things in the Constitution. So yeah, our hands are tied here. In a sense, we got a gun to our head. And we're doing the best we can, and we're following our Constitution. We're in alignment with our laws and governing documents.
Yep. And some of these things in the Constitution were written up way early on when the membership was a quarter of the size, like around less than 6,500. We are now 30,000 members across the country. But the process in which we were dealing with under this particular circumstance, it doesn't matter 30 days, 100 days, or whatever. We would have tried our best to reach out, to work with the other side, with the lawyer who were representing the petitioners, to try to engage in a conversation to see if we could work something out or explain how the union functions better. So I don't think it would have made much of a difference to this being so quick, whatever the number is in the Constitution. All right, another question. Is ACTRA's in-house accounting finance team, are they chartered accountants? Tova.
I'm happy to answer that. The finance team that we have that is very well educated, they were required to meet annual training requirements every single year. One of our staff is an MBA in finance, and 3 of them are certified public accountants. And then we have other staff that helps in that department as well. But yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Did the dues referendum also include an increase to the cap? Was it not possible to separate those two issues to get support for just the dues increase? Keith?
We had a lot of conversation at various town halls and special membership meetings about all sorts of things. And sure, we could have broken it up, and hindsight's 2020, and maybe that would have been a better way to go. I think we're going to have to contemplate a dues increase again very soon because we need it. And we learned we need to consult more with the membership before we figure out what exactly we're asking for. So I don't know that the conversation about the dues increase really is what we're talking about here today. But I think, yeah, I think there was a mistake in putting all those things together, perhaps, into one question, because if any one thing doesn't work, you're faced with the choice of voting against the whole thing. And in a sense, that's sort of what we're looking at today with this proposal to change our constitution. I think, you know, some aspects of the number of things being asked as changes here are really problematic, whereas other things may have some merit, but we haven't had the conversation to determine that. But we'd love to have the conversation.
Great, thank you. Why does it cost $10,000 to hold a referendum?
Used to cost a lot more when we had to mail referendum out, staff time of printing everything up and mailing and cost of that. But this is the cost of a third-party election buddy system. This is just the cost of it.
Great. George, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, like, in any referendum, because I was also on council for equity, any referendum, anything that goes to the membership for voting with a system that's outside of what we use will cost money. That is going to happen, especially with the amount of people that we have. Of course, we're going to use an outside system to get all the votes in and make sure that we are counting them as accurately as we can. And this is how we do it. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Broadus, I'm just checking in if you don't have.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question. Doesn't National Council already receive quarterly reports? Why can't we share with the membership? Tova?
I wish we'd have been able to talk to these folks and go, are you looking at the variances? Because that does exist. The variance reports do exist, but not the minutia, the detailed multiple schedules that they are asking for that we do not produce quarterly. And that's why the expense, the huge extra expense that would be needed. So yeah, I wish we, and I hope we will be able to talk to them, as I said, and invite folks in who are interested in more information, but we can share what we have and not commit to huge expenses. The unintended consequences of $300,000 a year, I don't think is really what they want, I hope.
All right, great. Here? Is this it? All right. I understand that the petitioner's lawyers responded to ACTRA lawyers that they would review any and all proposals from ACTRA as long as they were in writing. Did ACTRA send any written proposals in return? So as we've said before, we were engaged with their lawyer, and we had our lawyer engage with their lawyer, and our lawyer reached out on 3 occasions to ask if we could meet to discuss. And as they didn't want to meet to discuss, and with the help under the advice of our lawyer as well, it would not be, we would not be able to put forward a proposal if we don't know what we're proposing based on the fact that we didn't have a conversation. So we can't guess exactly why these asks are being asked. And so therefore we can't create a proposal back to them when we haven't had the discussion. All right, another question. Is that right? Is there any onus on our Constitution on the members or petitioner to work with the union or make every effort to resolve the issue rather before the referendum, so we don't have a situation where the other side just says no and we're forced to maybe have potentially unnecessary referendums? Tova, you want to address that?
I think the Constitution Committee needs to update our Constitution and make sure that we are more protected. Exactly. I really appreciate that question. I would hate to see petition after petition after petition coming to us. I just would encourage a lot of these folks to run, be involved, be at council, be able to quarterly, and be asking these questions, and be involved, and elect folks who you trust to be the stewards. But there is room for some more look behind the curtain. Absolutely, friends. I also agree to that. I understand education is needed, and we're totally willing to do that.
All right, we'll take a couple more questions. Hold on, we've got a lot of working behind the scenes here. Do we know how many petitioners are also producers? It's an interesting question, but I don't know. We only deal with members, so we don't deal with producers, and I don't have an answer for that.
Eleanor, it does bring up an interesting point, and it's something that's kind of been woven through the Q&A. There's been elements of anger and fear and suspicion, and I want to honor those feelings that our fellow members are bringing forward, because I'm very interested in that feeling, like how that arrived. I want to understand the fear and suspicion, because we've given very plain, in some cases kind of boring reasons why we have arrived at this point, and how we have gotten, even before COVID, to this point where like referendums were necessary, and we talked about dues. But I think it's a bigger thing about, it's your national body. It's been guided by members, your fellow members, and they take it really seriously. And perhaps now this makes you want to continue to participate more. But when I get some information and it's like, whoa, that makes me feel a certain kind of way, I want to get more information. I will trust what I learn, but I want to verify. I want more evidence in order to understand, is this actually what I'm looking at? Or have I just gotten one shade or one perspective? And then when you turn it a little bit, the kaleidoscope changes and you're like, wow, there's a lot more facets to this. I would say it's always worth it to consider, what am I hearing? Where am I getting this from? Am I hearing this from lots of different folks? I would honestly ask you to consider, when was it that National has always wanted to seek your trust, and we are here because we are reaching out and being transparent, and we have had these processes. But I want you to also please go home and consider that, when did this fear and suspicion start, and who does it benefit? It doesn't benefit our union. And it's all about trying to make sure that we can be stronger together. Heck, I'm wearing my United We Bargain shirt tonight, and understanding that we want things to be better for the entire membership, and we will steward this, and we really do want to embrace these petitioners, our members, and address their concerns. But until we're given guidelines, until you say, hey, we need this. It can't just be nothing on one side. How do you expect us to serve you if an order hasn't been really placed? It's just been, a sign has been held up, right? And clarity and dialogue is how we reconcile stuff. And reconciliation is where we're at. And I really do hope we can address the fear and suspicion and start to put that to sleep, because it's a worthwhile organization. It is a transparent organization, and the evidence proves that. And we can keep saying that, but we would more welcome you to engage with us so that it is more and more understood. There's nothing to hide, and we do welcome that people want this union to be stronger. Thanks, Eleanor.
Thank you. Okay, I have another question. Is ACTRA able to provide the contact information of the legal counsel representing the petitioners? So, you know, no, I mean, this is, you know, we are working at going through this process as respectfully as we possibly can. And we would never want to be in a situation where we're trying to pit member against member. So it wouldn't be appropriate to divulge information like this. We're going through the process step by step as it is offered up in the Constitution, and we are doing our very best to handle the situation. Okay, here's a similar question. This is a financially vulnerable time in our industry. As I understand it, every branch is making cuts to accommodate this precarious time. Since this referendum will cost our national union approximately $10,000, will the names of the members who signed the petition be made available to the membership? Again, I'm going to say that we are trying to do this in a respectful manner. Every member has a right to you know, say how they feel, or you know, ask questions, or not be 100% knowledgeable on everything. I mean, there's a lot to learn when you're in a union, or you're part of the advocacy of the union. But again, we would never want to pit members against members. That's not the goal of this evening. We were brought a request. We tried to have a conversation. It was not possible according to our Constitution. We had 30 on the 30th day. We had to put it to a vote, and that's where we're at right now. That was the time that we had to try to resolve the issue. And now we're here having this referendum because the vote must open according to our Constitution. Keith?
Yeah, you may know better than me, Eleanor, but I wonder if we have a petition within our union, do the members of our union have the right to know who signed the petition? And if they have legal counsel, who that is? I think we need to ask a lawyer to answer that question. I don't know the answer. Maybe you do, for sure, but it might be, you know, you need to know your accuser in court, you know, and all that sort of thing. But I don't know what applies here, but I think we should answer the question. We should get a legal answer on that.
Okay. Dex?
One of the main issues I have with the lawyer from the petitioners is that they work for the law firm that represents the commercial producers that have locked us out. So that's a red flag.
Okay. Did the petitioners ask for the opportunity to share their views with the membership? Will the petitioners be presented their perspective to the membership? So again, our lawyer reached out to their lawyer to ask if we could engage in a conversation 3 times. They did not want that. They wanted it to go to a referendum. And so here we are at the referendum. But if, you know, if the petitioners want to engage in a conversation and, you know, we stop the process, I don't think we would say no if we can resolve this issue, especially after this town hall. Will the full petition text be on the site? Yes, the petition, the full petition, what I read to you at the very beginning of the presentation that you saw on the screen, that is their petition verbatim, and that will be available on the site. Getting to another question. Thank you for your patience. How is the estimate of 250 to 350,000 to produce these reports calculated? It's a minimum estimate. Tova, you want to address that?
Looking at, just to reiterate in case you missed it, 9 to 12 weeks of work, 4 times a year to be able to produce the kind of minutia that's being asked for here. And we would have to hire at least 2 certified accountants, full-time staff to be able to do that extra work, plus the attention to new IT processes that we need to develop. And it's a calculation that we think is minimum, with benefits, with everything included, of what it would cost to hire those extra folks and to do the upgrades.
Great, thank you. Sorry, we're just scrolling through so we don't repeat the same questions. There's a lot of questions. Hang on. Okay, sorry, thank you. Does national and branches already produce quarterly unaudited financials to the council members?
So to reiterate, we do a variance report 4 times a year. And that shows in direct relation to the budget we approved, where we are in year-to-date spending. And we do 2-3 months in a row of what we spent in each line item. And but they are summaries, my friends. And then we compare that to what the budget was, how much is left in those line items, and then we also compare it to 2 years earlier. So it is a very comprehensive spreadsheet that we talk through a summary of what we are doing, and then each line item, so you can see in red that we point out, so it's easy to read where the variances are. Some of it is just timing, some of it is those bills don't come in until the end of the year. The bills come in at the beginning of the year. So that's what we do, and we get a snapshot with what our priorities are at the executive level, absolutely, 4 times a year.
I'm going to throw another question to you, Tova. Why can't we see unaudited reports? Anything to hide?
Absolutely nothing to hide. Those variance reports are shared with every single one of your national councillors. And I think, if we could have a conversation with the petitioners, would that suffice? Is that what they're looking for? Because I think that could easily be done, but not allowed into the ether. I think we could have a protected place where we actually share those things, and people who are interested in that kind of minutia could come and we could talk and actually explain and answer questions. But I'm not in favor, for all the reasons that were articulated before, about things that we would risk by having everybody in the industry that we're negotiating with looking at the minutia of our finances through the year. We could do it a different way where we protect ourselves.
Keith?
Yeah, so the questioner asked about branches. So as usual on the left coast, we're a little different. But what we do at our membership meetings, and we have 3 a year, at those membership meetings, we also share sort of a year to date, which in a sense is what you're talking about as a variance thing. The other thing we do differently in British Columbia is that the budget is approved by our membership at our annual general membership, and that's also where our audited financial statements are received. So yeah, but yeah, we sort of give an update at every membership meeting, you know, in terms of where we are year to date.
So just to be really clear, those are not released into the ether. Those are not published. They
Oh
are
no, they're just at the membership meeting.
for members, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Is it true that national and branch councils only operate and make decisions based on provided on budget variance reports? Is it true that national and branch councils only operate and make decisions based on provided on budget variance reports? So we don't make, everything is very calculated in our decision making. So it's every decision that we do make is based on the budget and within the budget. So if there's ever anything extraordinary or something comes up where there's, you know, we would have a meeting and that would be discussed on all the levels to get a vote of approval or not on whether you're going to do something. But yeah. Tova, do you have anything to add to that?
Things that aren't contemplated, we would have to talk about at an executive meeting and see if we have, you know, enough resources to accomplish it, or beg and borrow from other line items that maybe we haven't been able to get to this year because our priorities have shifted. Because is it?
Sorry, Tova, go ahead.
It's okay. I think you've articulated it, Eleanor.
Okay, good.
We make our decisions based on what's good for the membership and what we think is best for the membership, and what we our priorities are. We normally do a 3-year plan. Is it a 3-year or 4-year plan, Eleanor, these days? 3-year plan, and priorities of what we want to accomplish. And some of the bigger items like the IT development and the overhaul of our AMS system has been in play for a number of years. And we've committed to that with all the branches, knowing that that work needed to happen. That was a huge, and continues to be. Legals have been an increasing part of our budget line items. ITDS was very, very information technology database systems was a very small line item when I started, but it has certainly ballooned because we needed to revamp everything in order to talk to each other across the country. And that kind of programming and that kind of work has really taken a big investment in order to bring us into the 21st century. So it's not that we are just hamstrung by the budget, but we are guided by the budget. And then we make decisions accordingly as to what we feel as a national council is necessary.
All right, we've got just a couple more questions. Mariah, I'll hand it over to you quickly, and then we'll just do a couple more questions and we'll wrap this up.
I just want to talk to all the people who speak and think like me. I'm not smart like a lot of these people on board here. I don't know numbers and accounting and degrees, etc. So I just want to give you guys a little bit of a perspective. All the variance versus the minutia versus very basic layman terms. When I do my taxes, I've got every single receipt mentioned in detail. And then I also give to my accountant a summary of stuff. So I say, hey, I went on a trip. It cost me X amount for hotels. It cost me X amount for food. And it cost me X amount for transport. That is what we as national councils and the executive, we're looking at all those things. What I'm not necessarily going through in detail is restaurant so-and-so on such and date and restaurant so-and-so on such and date, da, da, da. If we see that the total looks ridiculous, we question it. Was that a 5-star hotel? Did you do taxis everywhere? We question that. So I think the problem, part of this issue, is that we're not understanding unvetted, vetted, non-vetted. What is it that the information is being stated? You do not want to go through 3 million receipts on everything. However, that is my opinion. I want to be very clear. No one here disagrees with you asking these questions. Everybody has the right to have the questions. There's a right to have a petition. There's a right to have these conversations. And I am 100% open to more transparency, more conversations, more education, more involvement from all these people who are watching, who want to know details. Come on down, come to your counselors, go to your town halls, go to your AGMs, and ask the damn questions. I am totally for that. All I am saying right now, here today, the only conversation we should be having right now is this referendum. This vote to yes will cost us a shit ton of money that we do not have. That is the bottom line. We don't have it. That means every other thing we are working on, better diversity policies, better representation, better protection on set, better accounting, better residuals, better. We are already at the very tip of it. That's just fact. You can go and yell at your counselors, ask them a million questions why that is a fact. I'm all for it. But do that at your AGM, do that at your town hall, do that with your counselors in your local town. This on national today. All I am telling you is that a vote for yes will mean we will have more money spent in minutia of stuff that will kill us. That is what this is about. The rest, more details, more info, go for it. Just do it locally so that we can move forward. Please, I beg of you. That is only my opinion, but I needed to share it. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of our town hall. We really have gone a little bit over, and we'll end it on Mariah's last note there. Thank you very much for bearing with us. As you may have noticed, there were quite a few questions that were repetitive. So we did do our best to try to file through as many questions as we could. If there is anything that we didn't get to that you felt we missed that was not addressed, please reach out to your branch council or national ACTRA National. There's an email address that you can easily send your questions to. I want to thank everybody who showed up today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to your national council over here. And again, as you've heard, your national council recommends you vote no on this petition, on this proposed referendum vote. So thank you, everybody, in solidarity. We hope to see you soon. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. actra.ca. Thank you very much, everyone.